Hello, everybody. Josh here, and welcome back to another episode of the post show review for Monday Night Raw. This time for the September 15th, 2025 episode, where I go over everything that happened on Monday Night Raw from the promos to the matches to the segments, all of the results, and all of that good stuff we will be going over. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. If you're returning, welcome back to the post show review. I feel like it's been a while that since I've posted, even though that's not the case because I posted on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. But oh well. Or did I? Did I do a SmackDown post show? Oh yeah, we did the headlines of the week. I'm completely losing my track of thought. Um, but yeah, we're gonna be going over Monday Night Raw, a episode of Raw that I didn't find particularly interesting, and I don't have a whole lot to say after this episode. And that's the thing with these post shows sometimes for the weekly shows. Like when when things barely happen, is what I'm trying to say. Um, it's hard to do a post show because then you're like, okay, what do we really break down here? And this was one of those episodes on Monday Night Raw. But before we get into that review, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the videos, podcasts, and interviews that come to the channel. Subscribe to the the Kayfabe Central Ko-Fi page. It's $5 minimum to subscribe to the exclusive wrestling content tier. You can get early access to podcasts and interviews, like the interview I did with Emilio, the owner and promoter of Destiny World Wrestling. If we had a great 30-minute conversation, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and check that out. You can learn all about the behind the scenes and the workings of Destiny World Wrestling just from that interview. So if that's something that interests you, go check it out on YouTube and Spotify. It's also available on the Ko-Fi page. It was available there first on the exclusive wrestling content tier. So whenever I have stuff like that announced or coming to the Ko-Fi page, like early access content, I will announce it on like Instagram, X. I'll probably announce it on everything, to be honest. So make sure you're following the links that's in the description on all social medias. So you're up to date with all the info. But with that being said, let's get into Monday Night Raw from September 15th, 2025 in Springfield, Massachusetts. We kicked the night off with John Cena coming out and a pretty generic John Cena promo. There was nothing to it. He came out, he thanked the fans. The fans said, "Thank you, Cena." Um, there was nothing to this promo, and he pretty much just talked about his match with Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. And he said the same thing that he said after Lesnar returned, where he was like, "Yeah, I'm afraid of Brock Lesnar. I shouldn't accept this match, and but I'm going to anyway because I never give up." There's nothing really to break down there. Nothing of intrigue really happened in this promo, and yeah, that's all there is. I get it. It's John Cena's retirement tour. He's just having fun, and I have nothing against that. But in terms of analyzing and breaking it down, nothing really happened here. Um, I'm also not particularly excited for this Lesnar and Cena match. There's been little to no build for it anyway, and the only face-to-face confrontation we've had is when Lesnar attacked Cena. There's been no segments or anything like that. So I'm not really excited for this match. I don't have much interest in seeing Cena versus Lesnar. I don't have much interest in seeing Lesnar back in the WWE to begin with, especially with everything that's been going on with him. Um, but yeah, Cena versus Lesnar is happening at WrestlePalooza. This was a pretty nothing promo from Cena. It's just like I said, your typical Cena promo. Um, Jey Uso and LA Knight were backstage arguing. Adam Pearce was trying to, separate them and cool them both down. Um, Jey Uso was saying, "I have my match at WrestlePalooza alongside Jimmy Uso." LA Knight says, "I don't care what you have at WrestlePalooza." And I think it was Sean Ross who brought this up on his post show. In terms of making sense, LA Knight is one of the best in the business right now because Jey Uso and the Bloodline have done him dirty in the past, and he makes it clear that he's not forgotten about that. Which, in most cases, WWE tends to not, care about. They tend to not pay attention to that. It'd be like, oh, now they're on good terms. But LA Knight notices that. Um, However, they seem to have taken a turn a little bit here because LA Knight says, I want the bronze. I want both of them tonight. And Adam Pearce says, well, you're going to have to find yourself a partner. And LA Knight says, I'm going to pick Jimmy Uso, which Jay Uso was not happy about, obviously, with the tension growing between them. So Uso's not happy about that. Knight picks Jimmy. We then get into the first official match of the night, which is Lyra Valkyria defeating Roxanne Perez by pinfall. And a pretty okay match. I expected more from these two. I'm not gonna lie, but it was fine for what it was. I don't think there was any botches or anything from what I can remember, but yeah, it was a pretty solid match. Lyra picks up the win after the match, though. Of course, Raquel and Roxanne go on the attack. While they're attacking her, Bailey returns. Kind of assumed that she was going to be back sooner rather than later. One of these weeks, she was going to return. If it wasn't last week, obviously it was this week. Yeah, Bailey's back, and then she sends Raquel and Roxanne running, and then she goes into this like alter ego thing where she's like, at first I think she was like, the ding dong hello Bailey, and then she just goes around the ring hugging people. She hugged Corey Graves, she hugged Joe Tessitore, she hugged Alicia Taylor, she hugged some fans, she hugged the security guy. Yeah, everybody was getting a hug. Some fans maybe got a little bit touchy. I don't know. Maybe they did. Um, Kind of seemed like it, but you know what? Who am I to say anything, right? No, man. If a wrestler gives you a hug like that, just respect it. A lot of the fans did, but I did see a few ones that were getting a little bit touchy. I'm like, oh, easy there, man. Um, but yeah, Bailey was just running around hugging people. We then had a backstage segment. Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky were backstage talking with Adam Pearce about their match at WrestlePalooza. Again, a feud with no build at all. Um, this the whole thing has just been not good. Because Oscar came in with Kairi Sane, of course, got in Stephanie Vaquer's face, and said, told Vaquer that she's not ready for Io. Vaquer told her to get out of her face, and then Oscar said, "Tonight you are going to face Kairi Sane." So Adam Pearce made that official for later on in the night that Vaquer will be taking on Kairi Sane. We then had Penta defeating Kofi Kingston in a match where, in my TikTok preview, I said this should be a fun match. There were some fun spots in it. Penta's chops looked really cool. Like, those are some loud chops that he gave Kofi. And then the Mexican Destroyer off the springboard looked absolutely fantastic. It's Penta. A lot of the things he does is fantastic. The rest of the match, though, just wasn't that interesting, and neither is the storyline. And I say that every single week because it's the same thing every single week. I don't understand this storyline. I don't like it. It's just not good. I don't know what they can do to make it better. Maybe just stop the rivalry. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe eventually this is going to lead to Rey Fenix coming up, and maybe that'll be worth it. Maybe we can get the Lucha Bros versus the New Day. I think it's about time we get the Lucha Bros together. They're both there. They might as well be together. And now Andrade is gone from the WWE, which is something we're going to talk about on the headlines of the week at some point this week. I don't know when. It can't be Saturday because I have to go to AEW All Out. So I got to figure that out at some point this week. But yeah, Penta defeated Kofi Kingston, and that was that. Nothing else happened after that. Backstage, Jimmy and Jay were talking to each other. I didn't see the first part of the conversation because my stream kept lagging today for some reason on Netflix, and I don't know why. I don't know if I was the only one who was having that issue. Someone else in my TikTok live chat was saying that Netflix was slow for them as well. So I think it was just a Netflix issue. I don't think it was my Wi-Fi because everything else was working perfectly fine. But yeah, it was kind of freezing. So I missed the first part of this conversation, but pretty much Jimmy told Jay that he's not going to be taking orders from him because Jay Uso was like, man, you're not going to team with LA Knight. That's not going to happen. We got to keep this in the family. This is bloodline business. We got to take care of our own. And Jimmy wasn't having it. He was like, I'm not taking orders from you. And last I checked, you're not wearing an Ula Fala around your neck. And that got a little bit of ooh from the crowd. So yeah, a little bit of distinction between the Usos. I'm intrigued to see where this goes because I'll get into what happens later on in the night as well. Um, but then we had the promo, the segment, the Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch going face to face with AJ Lee and CM Punk in a segment. Um, there was just some bickering back and forth. There wasn't really any one liners that really stood out to me. It was kind of a generic back and forth, if I'm being fair. Unless I missed something when talking to the chat. But yeah, this just wasn't really much to get into. There wasn't any crazy one-liners. It was just, these two teams going back and forth, these two couples going back and forth. And yeah, there was like lines that talked about AJ Lee's book, where Becky Lynch was like, "I read your book, and I know you have neck issues. How's your neck holding up?" So that was pretty deep dig, but that was kind of as deep as they got. Um, and then towards the end of the segment, Seth Rollins repeated what CM Punk said when AJ Lee returned. She's like, because AJ Lee slapped Seth Rollins for saying that CM Punk leaves when things get hard or when things disappoint him or anything along those lines. So if AJ Lee loses at WrestlePalooza, don't be surprised if CM Punk leaves you as well. And that's where AJ Lee slapped him. And then Seth Rollins was like, my wife will beat you up, which she didn't. Becky was very confused as to why Seth Rollins would just offer her up like that. And then walked out of the ring. And then Seth Rollins took advantage of CM Punk. And then Becky Lynch came in the ring and took out AJ Lee with a manhandle slam. And, that caused a distraction for Punk. AJ Lee got laid out, and it was just all a ruse the entire time. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch are still on the same page. I was very confused for a second. I won't lie. They had me for a second. I was like, are they going to have some sort of distinction between these two? So, yeah, there was that segment, which was a pretty, yeah, again, like I said, pretty generic segment there. Backstage, we had Dominic Mysterio having an interview with Byron Saxon. That was interrupted when the New Day jumped Penta from behind. The War Raiders came to his side, but it was too late. Penta was already beat up, and the New Day ran away. So there was that. We then had El Grande Americano defeating Dragon Lee by submission with some help from two other El Grande Americanos. Again, this is something else that I just have no interest in whatsoever because it's stupid. It's stupid, and it's not even a funny stupid. Maybe at first it was, but at this point it's just stupid. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why they're doing this. I think the three men under those masks, Ludwig Kaiser, Tyler Bate, and Pete Dunne, could be doing so much better things. These are three guys who are incredibly talented and that are being put under masks, and they're not even luchadors. And so I know I'm breaking kayfabe a little bit. Kayfabe Central is breaking kayfabe, ladies and gentlemen, but that's what it is. And it sucks. I don't know why. I don't know who's the writer behind this and who decided, Ludwig Kaiser, Tyler Bate, and Pete Dunne would be great under masks and posing as a luchador. But it's not good. It's not good. I don't like it. The match itself, El Grande Americano versus Dragon Lee, was a pretty solid match. And again, goes to show that Ludwig Kaiser can go in that ring and he could be doing so many better things than being El Grande Americano. But yeah, honestly, probably the match of the night. Ludwig Kaiser and Ludwig Kaiser, El Grande Americano and Dragon Lee was probably the match of the night, which is not saying much because that wasn't even the main event. And who would have thought that El Grande Americano and Dragon Lee would be the match of the night. Obviously, that's my opinion. Maybe someone else thinks the main event was a match of the night. I personally don't think so. I think this was, but again, it's not saying much. Um, Backstage, Lyra went into Bailey's locker room to thank her for helping her earlier. And then Bailey was in another persona and yelled at Lyra, saying, "Oh, you just let yourself into my locker room. What if I was changing? What if I was that?" And then just kicked Lyra out of the locker room. So um, Bailey's going through some things apparently and doesn't know who she is. I don't know what their plan is for this storyline and what's going to come out of it. But I guess we have to wait and see for that. I don't know if I have any interest in, and I know I'm being like very critical on WWE, and it's not just this just doesn't seem good to me. I don't know why. Maybe this will end up being the greatest thing ever. I don't think so, but maybe it will be. But right now, I don't understand this. I really don't. I don't know what their plan is going into it. And you know what? That could be a good thing. That could be a good thing because predictability in wrestling is not necessarily good. If I can predict everything that's going to happen and it happens, that's not really good. Um, so maybe, like I said, this could end up being really good, but we just have to wait and see. But that was that backstage segment. We also had Rhea Ripley telling Stephanie Vaquer she's going to be next in line. It doesn't matter who wins between her and Io Sky at WrestlePalooza this Saturday. That she is next in line. So, yeah, and I was actually thinking earlier because we mentioned how this women's world championship is, it may be cursed at this point, honestly. And who is the person that they go to every single time to put the title on when things get hard in the division? It's Rhea Ripley. I can see a world and where Rhea Ripley wins that title very soon. Potentially Stephanie Vaquer wins that title at WrestlePalooza because, in all honesty, as great as Io Sky is, I don't know how another title reign from her would work and if it would be any good because the last title reigns weren't that great. Um, so I can see Stephanie Vaquer potentially winning. Maybe I'll change my prediction about that by the time we get to the predictions podcast. But and then eventually we're gonna get that Rhea Ripley and Stephanie Vaquer match. That could be the WrestleMania match. But with the way that this division is right now and how bad it is realistically, and I'm not saying that because of the talent, because they have the talent to make this women's division so good, but they're not doing anything with it and they're making it bad. We could have already had a women's world champion. We could have already had that, but here we are. We have to wait all the way until Saturday for a women's champion. Um, so yeah, I can see them putting that title on Ripley soon. I really can. Unless Stephanie Vaquer has a tremendous run with it, then they could be like, okay, maybe we don't need to rely on Rhea Ripley in this instance, because Stephanie Vaquer is doing a good job. So if Vaquer wins that title on Saturday, it's very possible they just keep that on her for a while, and then maybe go over Rhea Ripley to retain. But we then had Stephanie Vaquer defeating Kairi Sane, and clean match. It was an okay match. There were some spots that just looked a little iffy. Stephanie Vaquer looks like she got spiked on her head in this match. So that looked nasty. But other than that, it was an okay match at best. After the match, Asuka came out, or not came out, she was already ringside. But Io Sky came out and stopped Asuka from attacking Stephanie Vaquer, and then Vaquer and Io just had a stare down. So that was that. We then had a backstage segment. The Judgment Day were celebrating Dominic Mysterio winning the AAA Mega Championship at Worlds Collide on Friday and being a double champ. Finn Balor didn't look too happy though, and questioned Dominic Mysterio again about this El Grande Americano thing. And you know what? If we're talking about being realistic, I was talking about LA Knight earlier making sense. Finn Balor's making a little bit of sense here because he's got a point. He told Dominic Mysterio, "You're in the Judgment Day. El Grande Americano is not in the Judgment Day. What does he want in return?" Apologies for that. My dog just entered my room. But what does El Grande Americano want in return? That's a realistic question because he's got to. And this business, if you do someone a favor, we've seen it multiple times before. You do someone a favor, they want something in return. So Finn Balor's questioning Dominic Mysterio, and Dominic's like, can't he just be a good person? Can't he just want to help me? And Finn was like, no, that's not the case. Um, and Finn wasn't happy about it. Finn stormed out of the room. Brought up that Raquel and Roxanne had a bad night. I'm being like video bombed here by my dog right now. I don't know. This guy always seems to intervene himself and everything. Um, but then that took us to the main event of the evening. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed defeated Jimmy Uso and LA Knight by pinfall. I kind of expected this. Thankfully, though, there were no interferences. What are you doing? Look, we're getting some camera time for the dog. Um, Thankfully, there were no interferences in this match, like there always is for Monday Night Raw matches. But um, yeah, it was an okay match at best. Like I said, I don't think this was the match of the night. I think this was a very slow paced match, but it was what it was. What are you doing? I'm being like harassed by my dog here for some reason. It was a very entertaining match and not very entertaining match. It was an okay match. I'm thinking about the El Grande Americano Dragon Lee match because I just looked at that. That was a pretty entertaining match, but this one was okay at best. But after the match, Braun and Bronson, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe what happened after the match. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed attacked LA Knight and Jimmy Uso. You're not even going to believe what happened next. All right. I might sound crazy. Jay Uso made the save with the steel chair. That's never happened before. We've never had a beat down and then someone comes in and makes a save. Never happened before. I don't remember it. I don't remember that happening. But Jay Uso comes out, makes the chair with a save, sends the Vision running, sends Breaker and Bronson running. LA Knight slides into the ring with the steel chair in hand and looks like he's about to hit Jay, but doesn't. Jay turns around and asks, like, hey, what are you doing, man? We're cool now. We're even. Then offers his hand to LA Knight. And then LA Knight shakes his hand. Jay turns around to Jimmy. When Jay turns back around, he gets caught with a BFT. Now, this is what I'm talking about, LA Knight making sense. Because this man just speared you last week. He speared you last week and then was all up in your face tonight. You got into a confrontation in the parking lot in Adam Pearce's office. And now he's just going to shake your hand? Like everything's okay? Absolutely not. Jey Uso gets dropped on his head with a BFT, and then that's how Raw goes off the air. So this was an okay episode of Monday Night Raw. It wasn't god awful, but it wasn't great either. There were a lot of low points on this episode of Raw. And probably the highest points are LA Knight making sense and El Grande Americano versus Dragon Lee, which is not good. That's not good, ladies and gentlemen. That's not that those two things should not be your high points of a show. Like I get there's some weeks where you have, weak shows and that happens, but this is consistent. And whoever's writing these shows, man, it's not that good. But that was Monday Night Raw, a very okay episode of Monday Night Raw. Let me know what you thought about Monday Night Raw, though. Am I being too harsh on everything? Am I being too harsh? Should I have more of an open mind about all of this stuff? Let me know down in the comment section below. But the comment section down below is not the only way you could let me know your thoughts and opinions. You could also let me know on the Spotify comment section. You can let me know on the Kayfabe Central Ko-Fi page. You can also let me know on the Kayfabe Central Discord server. All that is linked down below. You can go check out my TikTok as well. I go live on TikTok for all the shows during the week: Raw, NXT, Dynamite, SmackDown. I don't go live for TNA, but all the other shows I'm live for. So go ahead and check out the TikTok page as well, and you can, join the lives. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know you came from YouTube or came from Spotify or something like that. Obviously, these shows, like I mentioned on every post show, is not on Spotify. These post shows are only on YouTube, but every other podcast and interview or whatever is on Spotify. So go ahead and check those out. Check out all the links down in the description. Follow me on all social medias. Yeah, that is the Monday Night Raw review for September 15th, 2025. Once again, let me know you guys' thoughts. And that is going to do it for me tonight. I will see you guys tomorrow night for the NXT Homecoming post show review. I will see you guys then. Take it easy.